So, welcome back to another episode of In Between Homes. And today I have the pleasure to be with Michelle Delport. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Lucy. Nice to be here.
So, Michelle, can you tell us where is home for you?
At the moment, home and has been for quite some time. Home is the Netherlands, close to Amsterdam, and I can honestly say the reason home is because I have an 11-year-old son, and that will only change when he is independent.
This is amazing to see the connection between homes is not always a location, but really the people in your life, and especially when you have a son and taking care of someone on your daily basis. Um, can you share with us how did we meet?
We were connected via Maya Camarota, and we attended her online seminars, workshops, events. And then we actually really only got to know each other when we went to the Winter Wonderland in Madison or
Yeah.
Sand Valley. And then we really connected, and then we've seen each other several times since.
Yes, and in different location. It's what I love. I can say Michelle is a dear friend now, and we met online, but then we keep meeting up in different location around, yeah, Europe and also the US. So it's just a pleasure to be able to connect wherever you live in the world. So now let's dig into your story, Michelle. And if you look back 10 years ago from today, how was your life? Who was Michelle 10 years ago?
Well, 10 years ago it might be a different um, timeline because then my son was 1 years old. I had literally just sold my pub hotel in the center of Amsterdam. I sold it October 2024. I mean, 2014. So that is literally 10 years ago. So then I was not working and full-time mother and uh, just focused on being a mother, which was a long time dream. Just focused on being a mother, and I was then still in a relationship. So it went from crazy pub life to quiet home life.
Mhm. Can you describe a little bit more how did you end up as the owner of a pub life and having a pub and running a pub and all of that?
Yeah, so I immigrated from South Africa to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, when I was 23. And then I was doing all sorts of odd jobs, including breakfast waitress and hotel cleaner. And then I was working for a employment agency doing catering conferences and things as well. And then I was waiting for somebody to give me a contract because I wanted to have a proper contract. And my cleaning job gave me a contract. So then I stayed cleaning, and then within that company, I started doing waitressing, and then I started doing working in the pub during the day, and then eventually allowed me to work in the pub at nighttime. And then the owners wanted to sell the place, and they offered it to me. And so where I happened to have in that time done all my paperwork that was necessary to own a pub. In the time, you had to be 26 and you had to have certain accounting diploma, basic bookkeeping diplomas, and some law. You needed to know some of the laws in Amsterdam and around drugs and alcohol and things like that, and some staff management skills. And that was really a basic course that needed to be done. And so I bought the pub when I was 26, and I loaned money from everybody. So I loaned money from the brewery, from the gambling people, from the bank, from my mother, from the owners of the building, from everybody to make it happen. And the wonderful thing about doing it at 26 is that you just step into it blindly and naively, not knowing what you're getting yourself into.
But how how did this heck yes came to you? Like, how did you know that you were the one, I'm going to buy this pub? Is it how did you
I,
know it was the next move for you?
I don't think I knew. I honestly
Okay.
don't think I knew. So I think there was an opportunity. It came clearly knocking on my door. It was offered to me directly, and it was an opportunity, and I just took on completely. And I thought, okay, well, that's it. I didn't have any other plans. I didn't have any other direction. I had done the papers that were necessary for that branch, and I it happened, and I just said yes. And I had no clue. The interesting thing about it is that I had no clue how I was going to do it, and I just did it anyway. And so at the time, I had 5,000 guilders to my name, which now is about less than 2,500 euros. But this is going back uh, 31 years ago. So I had 5,000 guilders to my name. And with that, I managed to buy a pub hotel in Amsterdam Red Light District. So, yeah.
It seems like unreal, and at the same time, you just go for it. You did it, and I love this because you say it. It's maybe because you were young, you didn't overthink it, but it's such an amazing story of courage for a woman in a foreign country to decide to just buy a pub at 26 years old without knowing, but taking the opportunity and not trying to overthink it or know how she's going to handle it, but just doing it. And how was after? Did you manage with ease? It was easy, or what was the challenges you may encounter?
So I had many, many, many challenges. It was really remarkably difficult. I was confronted by my own shortcomings about being very hard on myself and about not doing good enough and not being capable enough and not knowing enough. So a lot of the day-to-day simple things was fine, but the bookkeeping or the stock taking or the and everything was a lesson from the beginning onwards about how to do things and learning by mistakes, but just doing. So the very positive thing about myself back then is that I was a doer. I was a hard worker. I just bulldozed ahead. I just did what I could do, but I had no um, skills around staff management. Um, I had a very clear right and wrong. I wasn't very gray or I wasn't very nuanced. So I just did what I thought was right, no matter what, and I just kept going. And within that, I made really a lot of mistakes. But within that, I also had to confront myself many times and learn to take time off, learn to not take things personally, learn not to beat myself up all the time. And that process took a long time, but I was knocked down many times and I just kept getting up because I was a doer.
So through the journey of being a business owner, you actually discover more about yourself, who you are, and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, you have made mistake, but then you learn. And looking back at this period of your life, if if you were going back to 26 years old, would you still take it, or you would do things differently?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amsterdam was very special to me. It was my Sodom and Gomorrah. So I came from South Africa from a very conservative Catholic background. And Amsterdam was just an eye opener in so many ways. And it confronted me about everything, about my upbringing, about my religion, about my personality. Nothing was soft and easy. Everything was hard, and everything was in your face. So, and having been brought up in a little cocoon, it was exceptionally thrilling for me to be in Amsterdam. It was exciting. It was new. It was people were interesting. People were diverse, and it so different to my background. So I loved Amsterdam from the get go. And then um, I wouldn't change it for the world, because within my um, hard life that I was leading, I learned who I was, and I took steps to love myself. Went, I grew from running a business as a male confrontational to a female with, over time, quite a bit of time, over female with softer views and more patience and more understanding, and that there's a different way. It doesn't always have to be that way. And um, yeah, it became more me over a course of time.
I love what you just shared about, because I think it's not a lot thought about when in the business world it's often the masculine ways, like you have to push, you have to work hard, it has to be, tough and strong and all those things, and you just say beautifully, like, yeah, you started like this, and then step by step over the years you brought more the feminine side, and like how I can put some softness and intuition and all of that. So it's beautiful, because I have the same journey as you in this part of business has been for me a way to know deeper myself, to kind of prove to myself what I was able to do, to gain confidence, and at the same way, it's like how I can be me really in business after. So it's a beautiful example, your story of how we can do business still as a woman, by bringing not just our masculine warrior, but also with a lot of love and compassion and all those kindness. So, do you have an example of things that have shifted for you, and maybe, I don't know, in the way you manage your staff, or in different matter? Do you have an example?
Yeah, so for a couple of examples, one time after maybe 9 months or 10 months, I took a day off, and even on my day off, I still went and opened the post and quickly I did the basic admin stuff. And then in the evening, I came by to see how things were going. And one of my staff members flew in at me and said, "Where were you? We needed you, and it was busy, and then we couldn't call you, we couldn't find you, we didn't know where you were, and we really needed you." And I got upset, and I told her off, and I told, like, this is my first day off. Who the hell are you to tell me that you couldn't find me, and that I was needed? And then later on, it took me maybe a week. I thought about it, and I thought, well, actually, all I needed to do was let her vent and just say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," and but I took it personally, and not doing my job. But all I had to do was let her talk and just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, and bad for you," and really, that's the way it is. And that would have been a better result. But I obviously needed that lesson, so that's okay. So, and then another time, I had a cleaner cleaning the hotel room, and I employed him because his wife was pregnant and they needed the money, so he took over his wife's job until after the pregnancy. And he was a terrible cleaner, but it was it took me like maybe 2 months to fire him because I really didn't want to fire him. But he was really a terrible, terrible cleaner. And even though I tried to instruct him and give him better, try to teach him all the rest, I had to let him go. And I knew for the whole business that was the right decision, even though she was pregnant at home. And after letting him go, I went and cried, and I cried and cried because it was really hard for me. But it was the right decision. And so I had to find the balance between um, running a business, still really caring, but doing the right thing. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned it is actually how to detach from the emotions and the emotionally involved in the business and looking at fact and knowing that if I don't do something about that, it's gonna have consequences on my business, obviously, because maybe at the time was less review online, but for sure, if the cleaning was not well done, it could have been also bad consequences in your business. So it's beautiful how you bring those example that there is another way to do business and a way that is more aligned with the both sides. I think we all need the masculine energy, the structure, the organization, the financial part to be on top of, and then this way of leading and managing and creativity that come more from the feminine. And yes, sometimes you have to fire people. It's really hard. And then realizing as well, you said something about not taking personally. And it's true. It's really like looking at facts. This person maybe not had the right guidelines from you before you go on the day off to know what to do if you were not available. So it's amazing lesson that you have been seeing for yourself within the doing part that is like, okay, how I can improve, how I can learn. So it's amazing. How did you have support at the time? Did you have external support from business owners or?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. And it at the time it was most unusual for a female entrepreneur. There were a couple of other females, but they were in relationships. So then they were doing it with somebody else. And I was really at the time like really the first female single solo entrepreneur. And I mean, this is going back to 1997 onwards. So it really is really most unusual. And then I had to learn to ask for help because I really didn't know how. I really didn't understand how. And so all the unwritten laws in the Amsterdam city center I had no clue about, and the unspoken laws. And I eventually had some built up some friendships with other restaurant owners and other people in the neighborhood. A friend of mine, Chris, I was later had a really good friendship with, and if things that I was really unsure of, I would go and ask him. The nuances of the unwritten rules. Another example is that early on there was a lot of drug problems in the city center, and the police called in all the business owners in that area, and we had a meeting, and the police were like, we're trying to solve this problem, and this is what's going on, and any feedback from the owners in the neighborhood would be helpful. And it was a long business meeting, and in the business meeting we were allowed to write anonymous little notes about any questions that we have, or any actually about any tips that we had. And I wrote on there that I actually don't know anything about drugs at all. And because I didn't know the difference between all the things that were going on in my neighborhood and what they looked like and how they're presented on somebody's face and all the rest. And so the policeman was trying to be helpful by calling that out, but I didn't dare put up my hand to say it was me because I felt naive and stupid. And so I had to learn the hard way about uh, which drugs were which, and which ones I could recognize on people, or what, how drug deals were going down, or things like that. And it was my naivety and my insecurity that stopped me from learning those type of things quickly, because I didn't know how to ask for help.
Yeah, it's a good example you are saying. I think we can all relate to sometimes we are shy to ask the question or to say, hey, actually, I have no idea what you're talking about. Your example around drugs, but it can be for some people around numbers, even can be from anything. And then how did you realize that? Is this a day or an event that you ask for help or ask for support and then things have shifted for you where you have realized that it's not bad to ask or
I think that daring to ask only came with personal development and learning to love myself. So it and that took, it's not one day, because that process really took a long time to accept myself for me, and then gradually having developed better friendships, I could ask, like, without asking, I could find answers. But another example would be um, losing financially, either because somebody stole from me, or because my stock take wasn't good, or because I paid my debt back too quickly and I paid too much tax. Was learning, because it was literally affecting me, was learning to ask. So with an accountant, it was, I had to ask the right question, not just and admit that I didn't know enough. And only because I admitted that I didn't know enough were they able to guide me. And if I didn't do that, it might have taken me much longer to earn the money that I earned. But I also had to lose money and to also learn those lessons.
exactly sometimes we have to learn the hard way but to everyone that listens today remember that asking for support asking for help or just asking a question is not something bad. It's something totally normal that actually shows as well your interest, your curiosity. So for me, has been in the same path. You know, it took me so long time to be able be vulnerable and ask. It was like I think when you are a solo business owner, you sometimes have the belief somehow that you need to figure all everything by yourself out. Like no one can actually understand what you are living and you have this belief that okay, I'm going to figure out and often and what I notice in a lot of people shifting is like oh, actually, it can be easier if I open up to maybe one person that has this experience. Maybe I can find some support. I can find a different point of view, and then okay, I can see a different perspective on things. So,
I was also always very scared of being perceived as stupid, and so I was always scared of asking stupid questions, and that's also because it was part of my upbringing, and I didn't do the sciences, and I didn't do the maths and all the rest, and I was just a pub owner, and so it was like, I didn't want to come across as stupid, which also stopped me from
Mhm.
asking the questions.
I would say just a pub
Exactly. No,
owner
I
is
mean,
already like a lot.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
some
no,
people are
exactly.
maybe are just in a job and it seems already a lot for them. So it's always the perception that we have in our situation, and
Yeah.
I think it's a great opener today for those that listen because it's like we underestimate what we are doing and as soon as you see someone else and they are doing those things it's like wow, Michelle, have you seen what you have done? So I love the journey you have embarked and how the personal growth you have also gained through the business. And what happened? How did you turn into a mom? Can you share with us?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, I was wanting to adopt a child and or children, and that never happened. And the day that I found out that that was not going to happen, I was crying on a stranger's shoulder while I was working in the pub, and he got me pregnant 5 months later at the age of 43. And so my son was born just before I turned 44, a week before I turned 44. And the first decision I made when I found out that I was pregnant was that I was going to sell the pub.
Mm.
And I didn't want that lifestyle. And so I sold the pub when he was just a year old.
Mm.
So it was a miracle in every aspect, in absolutely every aspect. Not knowing that I could fall pregnant and then having a natural home birth almost at 44 and just having a perfect son. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your story, Michelle, because you fight for so many years to be a mom. Some how many years already? I forget.
Seven, seven.
7 years. For 7 years, she knew she wanted to be a mom. She knew she would be a mom, but all the procedure for adoption were not working, not working, not working. But she knew she would be. That day arrived when it was a big no, and she entered a full feminine energy to be vulnerable in front of a stranger, and it became the dad. So for me, your story is, it's showing to people, even to myself, that it's possible. So thank you for being here today, showing that, even late in age, that people tell you is not possible. You can be, and you have made like the decision after to dedicate more your life to your son, and it's just a beautiful story for everyone that listen, that maybe are thinking it will not happen. I think somehow I didn't know you at the time, but somehow was something inside, in deeper knowing that you will, and you never let that part of you disappear. So eh, yeah, I'm just very very it's not attached or amazed by your story, but for me it's a story of resilience and courage, and embracing who you are truly and fully, and until it happens. So what was the challenges of shifting a life where you were solo business owner toward motherhood and not working anymore, I guess, as a job, not as a mom, because mom, I know mom is a job as well. But was the transition smooth, or how was it?
No, that's also interesting. So transitioning was initially not a problem at all, because I was really wanted to be with my son for the first few years, and then my son and I traveled for a year when he was 3 years old, because at some point in time in Holland we have a compulsory school, and so I wanted to do that before school started, and we traveled through Southeast Asia and then Caribbean and Mexico and stuff for a year, and then we came back, and then only after we coming back from the from travels did I want to actually have a career, and so then my son went to school. In Holland, it's compulsory from 5, but you can start at 4. So anyway, he was just over 4, and then he started school, and then I got my coaching certification, and I did that in English because my first language is English, and I just prefer it. And then I had connected with coaches that I had done with Tony Robbins many years ago that I knew were doing coaching diplomas. So I did it with them. And then I was all set to go to become a coach. And I spent a long time promoting myself. But then when COVID hit, I really didn't want to be an online person, and I really struggled with being an online person. And I did all the promotions on LinkedIn, and I stopped going to network meetings, obviously in Amsterdam, and obviously because it wasn't allowed. And then really through the COVID years, I really battled to actually make a business out of it. Um, and then post COVID, I did quite a bit of business consulting, and I also did business consulting as a volunteer. And then I stopped all my work recently last year because I found that I'm tired of just doing everything alone. I'm tired of being of service to other people and not having social gain and not having mutual benefits. And so, although I'm still a damn good coach and I'm a very good business consultant, I'm not wanting to be a solo entrepreneur anymore in the sense of fighting my battles on my own and living on my own.
Yeah, I think it's a struggle of a lot of us. I think, there's this online game. It's good for people that love building up audiences and are good in social media game, I guess. It's a different game. I think when we have an expertise that we know there is a value. Before COVID, I was never thinking even 1 minute about marketing. Like my marketing was when I do well my job, people know me and I get new clients coming calling me from nowhere. So all through my networks, through my partnerships and all of that. And then this online game has been very, I noticed for a lot of us, very painful and a lot of weight on our shoulder, because then we detach from who we are to try to fit into a world that is not fully us. And then until the moment we try new strategy, because we are very adaptable and we want to make it happen, until the day we realize, okay, we need to do it our way. And maybe it's less online now that everything is reopened, maybe it's more connection. And something you have been saying, you don't want to do it alone as well, is something I hear a lot nowadays. And even me, it's like I love what I do, and but what I love the most is brainstorming, is connecting with others, is creating stuff together as well. Because I'm not a believer that I have the whole solution for my clients. I have a part of the solution. I can maybe bring them from A to B, but then who is gonna do B to C? Or maybe we do together and we go A to C directly. So those things, I think, is in the world that we are now, more collaboration, more collaborative partnership are going to emerge. I just maybe still today in discussion, like how we make those things happening. And I believe it's gonna happen. And to everyone that listened today, I think, Michelle, can you share with us what is your core expertise? Like what we were doing in business consulting or business coaching, what was the reason people were having your support?
So I think my journey is really more about self-love and acceptance, and I think especially focused on females. And so I now, as a single mother with a special needs child, um, feel the need to focus on the things that I want. And and so although that might not um, feel successful, I believe it is more successful. And so previously I was stuck on having a title or having a name, or so I call myself semi-retired, knowing that that's actually not going to draw any clients in because I'm not actually saying what I do. but
Yeah.
but but I chose that because because I was so hung up about a name. I was so hung up about a title. And so yes, I'm a really good coach, and yes, I'm a great business consultant. But my focus is on what do I need within my current situation? What does my success look like? And being a fantastic, outstanding mother is part of my success. Being financially dependent um, and not having to work is a huge, huge success. And having time for my personal development and for still learning to love myself more, still learning to listen to my internal intuition, my guide, my spiritual guide, is apparently the path that I'm on now. So, so, so my message is to women. My message is ways, tips, tricks, ideas on how you can love yourself more, really love yourself more, and within that, you'll find better answers.
Mhm. Powerful. Yes. Even though we talk about business, it's about self-love, self-acceptance, and yes, I relate a lot to what you say, and I see the gift that you have as well, and then we need to bring more to people in a way that I love the fact you say semi-retired because it's actually what you have accomplished. Like you don't have to work, and you're probably too young on the paper to be retired. It's like you take care of your child, and it's too young to be retired anyway, but you are if you want. It's like living life now, and everything that you have built up the last 10, 20 years is to be at this stage today. And I think this is very inspiring, especially for a person that lives abroad, starting on her own with 5,000 local currency that was nothing at the time, own a pub, didn't have really business background, and then decided to have a child. And you have done it. And so it's amazing the journey that it's possible, and that you can now be supporting others to reach those things based on what they need, based on cultivating more self-love, self-acceptance, and they will have what they want, whatever is success to them. So it's very inspiring, and showing that more people are actually living the lives that they they believe it's their success. It's very, very fresh, very refreshing, I would say. Um, do you miss your home, like South Africa? Do you still have connection over there, or all your families now?
I love going. My brother and my sister still live there, and my brother lives on the coast. And so Duncan's got cousins living there. So during the Corona years, the COVID years, Duncan and I flew as soon as we could. We flew to South Africa a few times to be there because yeah, it was winter, there was summer, and so it was nice to really be there with the family and to be together, and it was great for my son. Um, However, as much as I love the nature there and I love the wildlife and I love the beaches and it's pristine, beautiful, as a single mother, it's not safe for me to live there. And it's not, as a mother, it's not going to provide the best opportunities for my son. And I might be able to live there when I'm really retired, or do 6 months or 6 months or whatever. But at the moment, it's not an option.
It's beautiful to see, the places you come from and the places you have chosen, and taking the best of those two places. And I think it's why we can have different homes, and this feeling of, yeah, there is good for when it's winter and then for the beautiful landscape and all of that. So it's very nice to see that you don't have to be in one place only, and you can be in between. So it's
And I
amazing.
like when I love traveling, and so when I can, I do. And then I like when I go to a place and I get a feeling and I think, oh, I could live here, and oh, I could live here. And there's like been maybe 5 or 6 places where I get that feeling, and when I have that, I think, maybe in the future, when Duncan, when my son's had his education, then I could go and try those spots.
Yeah, why not? Never try, never know.
Mm.
Um, there is one topic I love to talk about is what is the relationship with your finances you have today? Do you mind sharing with us?
No, that's fine. Yes, so I have a fantastic relationship with my finances, and and I think the most important part of knowing about your finances is knowing them. And so, previously in my business, um, I learned the hard way. And so, one example is that I repaid my debt within 3 years, putting me in a higher tax bracket. And I didn't know the relationship with good debt and bad debt. And so business investment and things like that can be fantastic debt. So, and it can make a huge difference to your tax bill. So, I think the uh, story about finances is knowing what's going in and out, and also for a business owner, is once you have a knowing of your finances, it makes um, expense making business investments a lot easier, because only if you know what your finances is can you decide whether you really need a new coffee machine, or whether you're going to repurpose the coffee machine, or whether you're going to invest in staff, or you're going to invest in interior design, as just as examples. And if you don't know your finances, that decision becomes really complicated.
Mm. Yeah, you must know. It's a basic, it's step number one, and then after you can make those decisions, those investment, and yeah, clarity is gonna come as well. So thank you for sharing this love for finances. And we are going to close up. But is there something else you would love to share today, or some recommendation, whatever you have on your heart?
So, as a long-time entrepreneur, um, my advice would be is to create time for yourself that's non-negotiable, and to pay yourself first.
Mm.
And so, whether you want to do a yoga class, or whether you want to go for a walk on the beach, or whether you want to go to the sauna, doesn't matter what it is, create windows for yourself. And that is absolutely essential for you to be a good entrepreneur, or to, well, actually, in anything, you need to love yourself first, and you need to find ways to do that.
Yeah, it's by feeding yourself that you will be able to give more. And yes, amazing advice today. So just before we end up, I have a rapid five questions just to go fast with short answers. There is no pressure. We can do it slow, but the idea is really to answer into one sentence max. Are you ready for it?
Yep.
So, one thing you would love for your life.
Adventure and travel.
Mm. One thing you would love for the world.
Understanding.
Powerful. You want to develop?
It's that the communication is important, but understanding is you don't have to agree, but if you understand where they're coming from, if you understand their background, if you have more patience, it'll make a big difference.
Thank you. The worst advice you have ever received?
Relax, take it easy.
I agree. I hate that.
Leave
Don't let me
it
to
alone.
relax. I'm stressed. The best advice you have received?
Find ways to love yourself.
Mm. And the last one, if you had a magic wand, what would you transform?
What would I transform for myself?
Whatever.
Oh, I would get my ideal, loving, ultimate, intimate relationship partner sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So if someone has listened to this podcast and fall in love with Michelle, reach out. Why not? So thank you, Michelle, for being here, for opening your heart. A beautiful story and journey, and I think something big is coming up, right?
Thank you. Yes, yes, I'm ready.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful, loving, caring relationship for you. And we are sending you all the love. Thank you for your time and see you
Thank
soon.
you too. Thanks, Lucy.